Welcome to the next in our study of women in the Bible. This week we're returning to the Old Testament and looking at two women from the book of 2 Samuel. The first is Tamar. Many women, though not members of a royal family very often, can identify with Tamar. What they have in common with her is the horrifying experience of having been raped by someone they assumed could be trusted, whether a family member, a friend, or an acquaintance. Tamar should have had little reason to fear for her personal safety. She was the daughter of King David and Princess Maacah. Look at 2 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 3. And she was the beautiful sister of Absalom. She wore the richly coloured robes of a princess and no doubt lived a secluded, pampered life. Her half-brother Amnon, overcome by her beauty and really his own lust, with the help of his crafty friend and cousin, concocted a foolproof method by which he could spend time alone with her. Pretending to be sick, he requested of his father, King David, that Tamar be the one to come and prepare a meal for him and feed him in his illness. Having no reason to be suspicious or fearful of her own half-brother, Tamar obliged by going to Amnon's house to make bread-like cakes for him. When she offered the cakes to Amnon, however, he refused to eat them. Sending all the servants from the room, he asked that Tamar bring the cakes and feed him in the bedroom. There, to her horror and despair, he raped her. She protested, she resisted. She begged him not to disgrace her by this shameful act. She tried persuasion. She even suggested that a request for permission to marry her would probably be granted by the king. Abraham had married his half-sister, Sarah, Genesis 20 verses 12. But she could not escape his violence. After his lust was satisfied, Amnon's feelings changed from love, in inverted commas, to utter hatred and contempt. Compounding his sinful act, he had the servants throw Tamar out as if she were a piece of trash to be discarded after use. Tamar's grief was such that she tore her beautiful robes and put ashes on her head in grief and humiliation. Understanding the emotional damage involved in rape and the consequent necessity for strong support of its victims, we can imagine how she must have felt. Her own brother Absalom callously brushed off her experience. Do not take this thing to heart. 2 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 20. Even King David, her own father, though he was angry, did nothing. While Absalom eventually had Amnon killed in retribution, 2 Samuel 13 and verse 32, Tamar suffered the lifelong emotional trauma. Even though she was a princess, her royal status could neither protect her from an act of sexual violence, nor provide the emotional support she needed to begin the process of healing. Countless women like Tamar have known the fear, pain, and shame of being raped by someone they trusted. And, like her, they need love, understanding, and compassion, which ultimately can be found in the Lord, who is the God of all comfort. Turning now to the wise woman of Tekoa. David faced a major dilemma. Was he first a father or a king? His beloved son Absalom had been in exile for 3 years after killing his brother Amnon, as we just learnt about. David longed for his son, but could not justify the return of a murderer. Joab, was counsel to David and the leader of his army, sensed the king's inner conflict and believed Absalom would be a good successor to the throne. To change David's mind, he sought out a woman of unusual ability, a good actress, quick-witted and subtle. The wise woman of Tekoa was well known for her talent with oratory and intrigue. She agreed to dress as a widow in deep mourning and approached the king with the story that Joab gave her. According to this story, one of her sons had killed the other and was now being pursued by her clan for murder. If he died, she would be left alone, without resource or heir to the family name. Tekoa was far enough from Jerusalem that her story could not easily be verified. Her presentation was brilliant, with vivid imagery. You can see 2 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 14, moving David to compassion. She was insisting that he commit himself in her favour, without giving away the real purpose of her mission. With tact and respect, she prompted David to follow his own inclination and call Absalom back to Jerusalem. This woman's charm and eloquence make her speech one of the finest recorded in the Bible. But perhaps, by pleading Absalom's case, she did not use her wisdom in a worthy cause. Our influence, like all God-given resources, should be exercised with responsible stewardship. Thanks very much.